There's a lot to talk about here, but there's one feature that's missing in this camera. One feature. That may be a deal breaker for some of you out there. We're going to talk about that in just a bit. Before we kick things off, big thanks to Sony Singapore for providing the ZV-E10 II and the new 16-50 3.5 to 5.6 OSS2 lens for review. With that said, these are my thoughts and my thoughts only. Now, my current setup that I'm using right now in the car, because it's darker in here so I can, maximize the aperture, is the 15-1.4G lens. Absolutely love this lens when you're talking APS-C and you want to talk about vlogging. Anyway, I'm shooting a Log S Log 3 because you can now. Let's go outside. Let's talk more about the ZV-E10 II. So I moved over to the 16-50 lens here now and just doing a little bit of walking and talking. Now this has OSS inside of the lens, so you're gonna get some stabilization. And you do get steady shot, active steady shot inside the camera. It is electronic stabilization. There is no IBIS unit in it. They were looking at the ZV-E10 II primarily for a video, for content creators in that way, not for photographers. Now, I get that in a lot of ways if you want to put it out there. I understand that. I mean, obviously, the way that it's designed, there's no EVF. It's not like the A6700. But at the same time, it's a 26 megapixel APS-C sensor. It's going to produce some really good colors, really good image quality. When I did my A6700 review, I absolutely love that camera. Now, for me personally, I need an EVF because my eyesight is such that looking at a rear display only, I can't get too close to a display. Everything's blurry. So an EVF helps me out a lot. But the fact that they didn't even put stabilization inside of this, that could be a deal breaker for some of you guys, but let me know in the comment section below. Outside of that gripe though, let's talk about the other features in this camera, because I think for a lot of people, as I mentioned, this is going to be a fantastic content creator's camera, especially for the price point. 4K, downsampled from 5.6K, 422 10-bit S-Log 3 ascending tones inside of this now. You have your creative looks. Sony's talking more about these creative looks. It's the new thing. We've seen this in Lumix with the Lumix Lab. Everybody's doing some new color, simulations. Fujifilm, of course. Nikon's got it. And of course, Sony's has it as well. And you can customize it how you want to do that. We'll go through some of the looks going through this. Now I'm trying out a different creative look here on the ZV-E10 II. Got out of S-Log 3 for the time being. And I'm just kind of playing around with different colors. You can go neutral, you can kind of, desaturate a little bit. You can go black and white and be very moody if you want to do that. We've seen this in all the other cameras. But Sony's saying, hey, look, we've got these creative looks. Unfortunately, Sony's names for the creative looks are just letters. So there's nothing that's really catchy to it. So I think in the future, Sony perhaps could dive into something a little bit more catchy in terms of names. BW, NT, VV. Doesn't grab you as much as Velvia, Provia, Acros. Now again, Sony doesn't own film, Fujifilm does. But you know what I mean? You can come out with some different names that would give it a little bit more like, oh yeah, I want to go to that look versus
NT, BW.
You know what I mean? One of the things that I appreciate on this is also the fact that you have all the menu system on the outside of the display now. So I can control everything here, which is great. And this is one of the things, obviously some of the improvements that we're seeing here on the ZV-E10 II over the ZV-E10 is just the simplicity of the camera, how easy it is to use and navigate through the menu system. So even if you are new to Sony's system, you're going to understand how to use this probably within 10 minutes, 15 minutes. You're going to get this down to be able to shoot some great content in no time flat. Outside of that, let's talk about the body design. It is a ZV-E1 body, which is great. The ZV-E10 to me felt a little bit inexpensive. Let's put it that way. The ZV-E10 II feels premium, consumer premium. And that is one of the great things about this camera system that I think a lot of people are going to like, is that for what you're paying for, you're getting a really solid camera. Different battery now, larger battery. I believe you can get up to almost 2 hours of recording thereabouts. I'll put the exact time here, about 130 minutes thereabouts of continuous recording on this. And then also you get over to 600 shots versus the previous ZV-E10, which was significantly less. Also, in terms of your autofocus now, you're not getting the AI chip inside this camera, unfortunately. And I know some people were talking about this. They were a little upset, like, why are we getting the AI chip? Look, still Sony's improved the autofocusing. Obviously, you got the new subject detection in this. Animals, people, all that comes into play. And I have not missed a shot. Look, honestly, the A1 doesn't even have the AI chip into it. Is anybody complaining about the A1? No, they're not. And you know what? Sony's autofocusing is some of the best in the business. This camera works fantastic. Look, I haven't been out of focus once. See, I'm in focus. That's all you need to worry about. Simple test, right? It all works beautifully when you're vlogging these days. Also, we got a mic on top, very similar to the ZV-E1 as well. So I don't want to go through all the specs because if you know what the ZV-E1 is like, a lot of that carries over into here. What I will say though, is that just using this camera, I think for a lot of creators, you're going to absolutely enjoy what this brings to the table for you. And it does fill a niche in the lineup. Obviously, you know, Sony has upgraded the ZV-1, the Mark II. I did a review on that last year when I went to Japan, and I love that camera. I think that's a great little compact camera system. I mean, its stabilization could be improved. Obviously, it's a smaller sensor, but it's a good camera for what it does, and it performs well. But if you want to have versatility, you want to be able to change your lenses, you want to be able to, you know, do product showcase, and you want to play with different apertures and do different things, you've now got that opportunity here with a much better camera at $1,000 US. I think it's around $1,100 when you include the kit lens into it or something like that. It's absolutely insane when you look at the price point and the value what you're getting. Now, for a lot of people out there, you may say, look, this camera's not going to be for you. And fair enough. But there's a lot of content creators from various different countries around the world that maybe are on a budget, and maybe they can't afford a ZV-E1, or maybe they can't afford an A6700. And those few $100s make a big difference to them. This camera is going to be that for them. This camera is going to allow people to really create. And plus, when you go into portrait mode, the whole UI goes into portrait mode as well. That gives you another opportunity. Recently, I was actually shooting these videos for Shell petrol station here, and we shot this all on the ZV-E10 II. Obviously 9x16 because it's for Instagram stories, and the quality is fantastic. Loved it. Absolutely love the quality out of this thing. So there you have it. You know what the funny thing is, when you're walking around town and you're vlogging, doing reviews like this, people look at you like you're absolutely crazy. Just now, this lady was like having a cigarette looking at me like,
Who is this guy?
don't want to film her because obviously privacy concerns, but you know what I mean? Part and parcel with doing this job. Sometimes you got to look like a complete idiot outside to get the right review out to you guys. That's what we do. Let's talk photos for a second, because this camera also does take photos. 26 megapixel APS-C sensor, as I mentioned before. The same sensor that's in the A6700 is now in this camera. And the difference between that camera, of course, and this one is that one will have a mechanical shutter, electronic shutter only in this one. The A6700 has an EVF. This, of course, does not have. As I mentioned, for me personally, I need an EVF the way that how I can't get close to a screen. So even a camera like this for video, it just doesn't work. I usually use an EVF when I'm shooting video if I'm going to be shooting somebody else, because I can see clear, I have no distractions, and it just works better for me in terms of how my eyes work. But yeah, you can still take some great photos out of this thing. No issues at all with that. Again, great color science. Sony's really improved that over time. Better skin tones, all that comes into play. It's just unfortunate that it doesn't have IBIS. Feels odd. Feels like it's a blatant omission when it's not necessary, because the A6700 is only $400 more. And for some people, that's nothing. And for others, that could be a lens or even two. It could be a lot. So I don't know. So let's talk about crop factors in video, because there are some. Now, when you're in 4K 60, I believe it's a 1.1 crop factor, which is not much at all. When you go to stabilization, though, you're going to get a 1.5 times crop factor. So I'm using active stabilization right now, or active steady shot, I should say. Excuse me. It's a 1.5 times crop. That's why 16 millimeter here looks very similar to around a 20 millimeter thereabouts if I was to vlog on this, let's say, a full frame camera system. You are getting a much better framing in terms of space on your frame versus the ZV-E10. So there is an improvement on that. It's just that you're going to get a crop no matter what, but you still get 4K 60 out of this camera, which is fantastic for the price point. I mean, before you could only get 4K 60 on a camera system when you were spending almost $2,000 US and beyond. Now you're getting 4K 60 under $1,000, $999 thereabouts. Still, it's a hell of a deal. Just kind of shows you how far technology is advanced when it comes to video. And very soon 4K 120 will be just normal, part and parcel. This is FHD 120, but nowadays I don't know many people that are shooting 120 all the time anyway. You may, but for this kind of camera system, probably not. So now I'm using the internal mics just to give you a quick test of how this sounds on the ZV-E10 II. These are the same mics as the ZV-E1, and obviously you can set it to go auto, and it can just detect where the voice is coming from. You can go rear and front, you can go all the way around. I have it set to front. And if you're worried if the audio quality doesn't sound too good, a little bit of AI magic, and now we're sounding clear and crisp. The software that I use, by the way, is Alphonic. I'm not paid or sponsored by them, by the way. I pay this service out of my own pocket, and I've been using it on my videos, and it cleans up a lot of the background noise. I've got fans here from this building. I've got people walking around, and it cleans this up pretty damn good. As a matter of fact, sometimes when I'm using this software, I have to add a background track just to make it sound a little bit more natural. That's how good it is. But there you have it. That's what it sounds like with the internal mics, with a little bit of AI magic to the mix. Got a pretty good sounding video without having to worry. So to wrap up this review, because I think we got a gist of what the Sony ZV-E10 is all about. It is an entry level. I don't even want to say it's an entry level because the specs on this are not entry level, but it's at a price point that feels like it's entry level, but it punches way above its weight class. And I've been looking at some of the footage here because I was editing some stuff prior to doing this portion of the video. And I gotta say, I was more impressed than I thought I was going to be. More impressed. Now again, lenses are a big deal. This kit lens is actually a much better lens than previous, I feel. It looks really good on video, but you're getting really good 4K quality video out of this. Again, downsampled from 5.6K. I'm shooting at the highest bitrate right now for 4K 25p. Just wish it had stabilization. Only thing out of this camera I wish Sony would put into it. Outside of that though, for who it's aimed for, the price point, this is going to redefine what a $1,000 camera is in the marketplace with interchangeable lenses. Anyway, guys, those are my thoughts on the ZV-E10. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you like this video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. More content on the way very, very soon. Thanks again for the support, and I'll chat to you in just a bit. Bye.